So I'm here to answer questions, and I have a thick skin. On the Steve Peterson, I'll open that up as well to help you to feel more comfortable discussing these issues. I did approve the recommendation. It did go to the board. And the board did not have to approve it because he was probationary, but I did support that recommendation. And so there we are, putting everything on the table and allowing you the opportunity to ask those tough questions that many of you have wanted to ask. Well, obviously, if I supported the recommendation, I felt strongly enough about it to not recommend his return. And as you know, and it is not a smokescreen, I'm very open, always have been, don't fear telling the truth, but I cannot discuss any personnel issue regarding Dr. Peterson or Dr. Pai. Legally, I will not actually comment, as I've said before, on the performance of anyone. I do respect your passion. I respect how you feel about Dr. Peterson, and there were a few who felt strongly about Dr. Pai's leadership. So, but I cannot discuss, legally, I cannot discuss anyone's performance publicly. And I'm not hiding behind it. It is a fact. And those are the conditions that I have to operate in. And it's unfortunate, but it is the case.
Show of hands, how many people here were asked for input about Dr. Peterson's work?
At any time?
At any time. That would give information to Dr. Pai or to the Chancellor. See? So who was asked?
My main reason for speaking is not for a person, Dr. Peterson. The way I would conceptualize it is that I have worked almost 30 years, well, 27 years in higher education, always in community colleges. In particular, for St. Louis Community College, working in the Access Office, where we're constantly faced with the governing, fast-paced, ever-moving politics of our land and laws and procedures of our land. And so all the time, our office has to think, what's the deliberative process? How do we analyze the situation? What details are pertinent? How do we reach a consensus when it's not easy? And I guess I saw that process exemplified so much by St. Louis Community College as we selected a person to be the vice president. People on all levels, especially the administration, had considered even to have that office in the first place. So I mean, how much thought by our administrators, and then how much thought by two interviewing committees went in exactly to what our laws ask for. Deliberative process, gathering details, waiving the alternatives, reaching a consensus when we know no particular answer is just going to be dandy. And so what I saw in this process with a person who was hired for all the right reasons, using every process that is so integrated into the democratic process, that I'm just so proud. And then as it turned out, we ended up by hiring somebody who actually hard to go forward in higher education if we're trying to imitate business. I mean, you know, if we're going, well, he's the CEO. That the business world purports to be a different world. It never tried to reach consensus. It never tried to hear from people who counted. And so to just say, well, he's a CEO, you know, what then? And so I'm asking us, and I think this is why it hurts so many of our faculty members and people like me, Because we want to be able to say, like we say, you'll be.
One of the things that I see her talking with Mike about is that you use these terms, I mean, like the CEO of the president is essentially the CEO. And what I see is we've become more business oriented and less academic oriented. I mean, first and foremost, it's an academic organization. And we need to have the freedom of thought to be able to say what we want and where we want. And Dr. Peterson was a huge advocate for that. And I know you're not going to like to hear this, but we feel that we're on the right side, the righteous side. And as a civil rights activist, you have to understand that as students, I want the faculty and staff to know that we support you and we encourage you to keep going forward. And we're not done on the Peterson issue. I mean, this is just the first step. We believe that he was the most advocate for us. When you look at it, 22 years or 24 years. 24 years at Central Missouri. He went to SLU afterwards and then went to Washington University, or
2 years,
WashU.
Yeah.
And so, just recently he was chosen, along with Mr. George Lawson, to go two of 33 people to be sent to a leadership conference. And this is in November of 2009. He gets a glowing recommendation. And then yet 3 months later, we're told that he is no longer here. And it's just frustrating to us, Especially, I can't imagine what Dr. Peterson has to feel like. I get the privacy issue, we get that, but does he not get a reason why? Can he not get a reason why he's no longer employed here? Because he's just as confused as the rest of us are, and as the students. And so I do encourage everybody here to go to the next board meeting and talk to the Board of Trustees. We need Dr. Peterson back, and that will move this campus. You mentioned that he's still paid until June 30th. My question is then why isn't he still here, working here, until his contract is up?
Generally speaking, and this is a decision that the board made, when an employee is given notice that their contract is up, especially one that may have a tremendous amount of responsibility, those individuals are given the opportunity to either stay and work out their contract, or given the opportunity to leave and have time to seek other venues. What happened here, I'm not really, whether he chose or it was chosen for him. No, I don't want, let me say.
Can you just listen to what my question is?
I don't want to say what happened with Dr. Peterson.
Right, I understand that. What I want to ask you is that
Will you commit to at least looking into that, since you say that you're unsure of that? All I say is that regarding the privacy, can you at least look into that?
I've said, again, that I made the recommendation to the board that his contract not be renewed. I'm sticking by that. It's not making anyone happy who wants Dr. Peterson. It doesn't make me happy to come here and have you all continue to say the same thing over and over again, but that's where I am at this time. And so I don't think...
Dr. Harris, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm asking. What I was asking is that you said you weren't sure whether or not he was told to go by the board or whether he was asked to stay.
No, the board would not tell him. The board simply approved my recommendation. So...
I guess we're just confused as you said that the person is given the option of whether...
I said sometimes, and I'm talking in generalities. I'm trying very hard to stay away from Dr. Peterson. And because I don't want this, because it's he said, she said, he's not here. And so I think he would be the only one who would speak to that. Dr. Pye would, but he can't. So it would only be Dr. Peterson who would have the right to disclose how he left. So that's why I said I'm not sure, because it's his right. And I think it's being violated by discussing what happened to him. If he came forth and said this is what happened, that's a different story. Okay, well, thank you all very, very much for